Our next speaker is Dave Cesar, and Dave is a director at SS&G Parkland. David is an accountant by training, but not your typical accountant, as he's interested not only in the numbers, but you're more than likely to find Dave on the factory floor with his sleeves rolled up, rather than a suit and a tie like you'll see him today, where Dave can see firsthand what drives the manufacturing process. For the last 14 years at Parkland and now SS&G Parkland, Dave has assisted over 100 companies in improving their operational performance in roles not only as a consultant, but also as an interim CFO, an interim COO, and an interim Chief Restructuring Officer in a combination of manufacturing, distribution, construction, and service companies. So David's become an expert in continuous improvement, and that's what he's going to talk to us about today. So please help me welcome Dave Cesar.
Thanks, Mark. I didn't realize I was such an impressive person and had such a good background. But when I looked at the list of attendees for today's Forum for Innovation and Growth, I saw manufacturing companies, saw distribution companies present, service companies, healthcare companies, involved in a variety of industries. Got accountants here, and the one thing that everybody in this room has in common is you have a bullseye on your back. And that includes me, Larry, and the colleagues at SS&G Parkland. And who's aiming at us? You got all kinds of bullets and arrows flying at you every day. You got margin compression, you've got aggressive competitors, market uncertainty, it's hard to find good talent in the marketplace, your costs are going up, technology's changing, your lenders are giving you problems, government regulations, your customers are more and more demanding. So when you have all these things coming at you, what you need to do is focus on the things you can control. And when you look at the list that I put up here, can't do anything about the global market, market uncertainty that's out there. You can manage expectations with your customers and with your lenders. But you can do something about margin compression. You can combat that. You can address your increasing costs. And you can do a lot to improve your business in a real tough business environment. It's getting harder and harder to find good talent in the marketplace to come in and help you run your business and produce your products or do what you do. And I was an interim COO a couple months ago, and with the owner, he coined a phrase that I absolutely love. And it's, I don't want to settle for mediocrity. So when we went through and looked at the employees, you got A players, B players, C players, and D players. And some of the D players, good people, C players, good people, but they're never going to move up. So, the company, a company should always be looking for better talent. And that's how you can improve, your performance and how do you address harder and harder to find good talent. You should always be going through and managing your business actively in a methodical manner. Because if you're not going through and improving your business consistently and continuously, then you're leaving your success up to your competition. And if your competition's like the hunter on the left, Elmer Fudd, you're probably doing okay. But if your competition is a company that has crisp execution, like the hunter on the right, then you're dead man walking. So you have to actively be looking at your processes and how you do things within your company to continually be successful. Simple definition of continuous improvement. It's systematically identifying and eliminating waste as quickly as possible at the lowest possible cost. And every process has waste. It doesn't matter, a lot of times when people are hearing continuous improvement or lean, they're thinking manufacturing, we're not manufacturing, so we can't do it. That's not true. Went into a multi-billion-dollar steel company because they were having problems closing their books at the year end, at month end. It was just taking too long to get them done. So we went in and looked at how we can improve that process to get them to get their financial results quicker. We did a continuous improvement exercise at SS&G. We got together with half a dozen of their auditors, took a look at their audit process, And what could we do to lean it down? What could we do to eliminate waste? So, it absolutely is applicable to every single process within your entity or your organization. It doesn't matter if it's manufacturing, distribution, healthcare. You can do things to, eliminate waste. Funny thing about waste is somebody's got to pay for it, and it's not your customers. It's you. So, it behooves you to try to identify what that waste is and eliminate it as quickly as you can. There's 7 types of waste. Overproduction, customer only wants 10, you make 15. Wasted money. When I go into a company and I'm walking through the plant, and I see inventory, a lot of times I don't see inventory at all, I see dollars. Because the company has spent the dollars on the material, they've spent the dollars on the labor, they've bought the supplies, they've paid for it, they've spent cash, and a lot of times what they convert that cash into, inventory, is covered in dust. So you lose flexibility to manage your organization if you're carrying too much inventory or the wrong types of inventory. Building something just in case, you're better off having the dollars sitting in the bank rather than be paying interest. Unnecessary motion, you got too many steps in the process. I had a client that they had a work cell. People on this side were doing work. There was a divider here, and a guy's over here doing work. So this guy gets up, he walks around the desk, or the work table, picks up parts, comes back, sets them down. I'm watching this guy work. And after he does that 3 or 4 times, it takes him a minute or 2 to gather up enough parts. I ask him, I go, why are you getting up to get the parts? He goes, well, the wall's in the way. So I go, what happens if the wall's not there? And the light bulb went off in the guy's head. Well, and he looked at me, he goes, can I move that divider? Hell yeah. So, we took it down, and the guy's productivity, and he was spending, a couple minutes doing that. He was doing it several cycles. He saved 10 minutes an hour. Saved an hour a day. So, a lot of times, eliminating waste isn't reinventing the wheel. A lot of it is very simple things that you can do. Transportation. You take something, you move it from here, you put it over there. Same with if you're processing information. In the audit process, start, stop, start, stop, start, stop. That adds waste and an increased cost. So, it's looking at how you're doing, every process within your plant. Defects, rework, repairs. I've got a client, that I'm at right now. The internal joke is we're so good, we do everything twice. So, and that's what we're working to get rid of. Some key features of a continuous improvement program. Went into a client. The client was very insistent that what they do is more complex than anything I've ever seen. And I've been in some very complex companies. Everything everybody in this room does is complex. The secret of a continuous improvement program is break your processes down to a bite-sized piece. So it's manageable and it's easy to understand. If you look at everything globally, yeah, it's complex. I don't care what you do. But if you start breaking that down into smaller and smaller increments, your employees will understand what they're doing, why they're doing it, and how they can do it better. You hear a lot of times that people don't like to change, and I disagree with that. Everybody likes to change if they can control that change. If you're telling somebody to change, they're going to rebel. They don't know, you don't know me, you're telling me to do something, so the walls go up and they start pulling back. One of the nicest things about continuous improvement, and I've been doing this for longer than 14 years, is people want to do their jobs, they want to do them good, and they want to do them faster, and they want to make them easier. So you want to tap into that brain power. And when you do that, things start to change. And you don't have to dictate it, you just have to engage with the people and get them to move to make the changes that are necessary. With continuous improvement, it's not about throwing dollars at the problem or throwing people at the problem. It's all about, getting small changes into a process. Simple as, the example I gave with a divider between 2 workstations. That's quick and easy, didn't cost any money. I helped the guy move the wall, and his productivity went up an hour a day. So, that's the type of stuff that you want to tap into, as part of this program. The other thing is because the ideas are coming from your workers, and your workers know their jobs better than you do. They do them every day. You may have done them at one point in your career when you were starting out, or you went out there to observe a process or something like that, but you don't do the work. They do. They know how they can do it faster. They know how they can do it quicker, but they need that impetus that it's okay to change. So because that's their idea, they're going to work, they own it. They're going to work to make that idea successful. And if that works, they're going to come up with another idea. And that's the beautiful thing about continuous improvement. Another interesting feature about continuous improvement is, results versus process. Continuous improvement is about the process. Results are history. No matter how real-time your information is, and a lot of companies can get real-time information within a couple minutes, that's history. Doesn't matter if it's a month old, a week old, day old, it's history. You can't change history. You can learn from it, but you can't change it. So what continuous improvement is about is looking at those processes that are delivering those results. You can change the process because those processes are happening right now. And by changing what's happening now and in the future, you can improve your results. Everybody in this room wants better financial results. They want their companies to perform better. The only way you're going to do that is by starting to look at the processes within your organizations. Everybody knows the definition of insanity. I was going to put a picture of a Browns helmet up here, but I can't do that now because they're 2-2. But if you're doing the same, you want to improve your results, and if you're doing the same thing over and over and over again, and you're not changing anything, why will your results change? I had a client that sent me an email one night, and he said, I'm praying this works. So I was on, as soon as I got it, I was on the line, so I responded, and I told him hope is not a strategy. And I didn't know, the guy that well. He may actually have been praying, and I didn't want to insult him, or it may have just been a figure of speech, so I put a smiley face at the end. He responded back immediately, you're right, I get it. What do I have to do to make this process work? So he became engaged rather than just sitting back. This is a very successful guy, very smart guy, but it's just, how do we do this? And it's as simple as asking questions within your organization. So, if you want your results to change, look at your processes, because that's what's driving the results. Another key feature of continuous improvement, speak with data. Went into a new client recently, operations, met with the owner. Operations were horrible, we're underperforming, we're always late, we've got nothing but negative variances. So I asked him to see the data. Didn't have data. Data is fact. So it took a couple days to get the data. We looked at it. What he thought was horrible, they were running an 8% positive labor variance. They're not horrible. They can get better. So then you tool down into the data and you analyze it a little bit. They have 15 departments. 2 of the departments are underperforming, so that's where you focus your energies. So you want to get the data and you want to speak with facts. Your gut may tell you something or your perception may be one way, but when you get the data, you can really see what's going on. The other thing I like about doing what I do, going into companies, is I get to watch other people work. And when you watch people work, you start to see waste everywhere. You watch people walk around, you watch how they're doing their job, and why I'm successful is I go out and I ask them, why are you doing this? Where are you going? And suddenly their wheels start turning. They're in there working. They're working real hard. And at the end of the day, they're not getting the output that the company needs because of inefficiencies and because of all the waste in the system. So, always speak with data. When you get it, go check it. Look at it. Go out in the shop and watch people work. Just sit down for a while. Stand in the corner. And you'll start to see what's going on, or have your managers do it. So how does continuous improvement work? We're big believers on internal suppliers and internal customers. If I'm a worker in a plant, somebody's giving me something, or if I'm in a billing company, somebody's giving me data. So, are they giving me the data that's conducive to me doing my job as good as I can? And then when I hand that data off, or that product off, or that information off, are they getting it in the manner that helps them do, the next step do it? So, a nice continuous improvement team is you get, 4 or 5 people together, supplier, workers, customer, and you talk about what you're going to do. You assess the process, that bite-sized piece that you've broken down that everybody can understand. And when you're doing that, you get the data. and you do a time study, which doesn't have to be long and elaborate. You could do it real quick. And then you go in a room and you plan and design, you brainstorm. Everybody is working so hard in your companies, you're working so hard in your companies, that you don't take the time to just step back and think and do a little bit of brainstorming. So when you plan and design a new process or a change, the workers do it. Have them list out every step that goes into that process. If it adds value, great. If it doesn't add value, then what can you do? Have that team come up with the ideas on what you can do to eliminate or reduce the non-value-added activities, which are those 7 buckets of waste. And you can even look at the value-added opportunities, or the tasks that are done, and work to eliminate or reduce those, not eliminate them. Or you can combine them sometimes. Then you go out and implement, and it's fast. Typical continuous improvement team, start to finish within a week. I've done it. The example I gave on the shop floor, that happened in 10, 15 minutes, just me and another guy. I had another company that made gun stocks. And gun stocks today, you may or may not know, most of them are injection molded. So this company molds the gun stock, and then they got to machine it out. So the guy puts it on the plate, on the fixture, and starts it, and the mills start grinding everything out. Plastic chips are flying all over the place. So the guy's standing there watching it. Gun stock finishes, pulls it off, puts it down, picks up a shop vac, and he starts vacuuming off the plate because you got to get all the chips off the plate. Meanwhile, there's chips all over the floor that somebody's got to clean up. So I watched him go through this in a couple seconds. I go, why do you have to vacuum everything up? He goes, well, because there's chips all over. I go, what happens if you take that shop vac nozzle and you mount it to the machine, so rather than the chips flying, have them go up? And the guy looked at me and he smiled. That would save me a lot of time. So he walked away, got a clamp, brought it back, clamped it up. It wasn't quite powerful enough, it's just a shop vac. So we went out and bought another shop vac. Suddenly this guy became a lot more productive because rather than spending his days sweeping and vacuuming while he's machining parts, he was able to do additional value-added tasks. So that's how quick continuous improvement can happen in a company. Then once you implement it, you go out and evaluate it. Let it run for a while, let it run for a day, reevaluate the process a little bit later, do the time study again. Did you get the desired results? If you did, it's a success. If you didn't, why didn't you? And go back and repeat the process. Key performance indicators. Let's see a show of hands. How many companies look at their KPIs on with a dashboard, a flash report on a regular basis? Does anybody do that? Great. A colleague of mine, Larry Goddard, who talked earlier, is going to talk a little bit about a smartphone app that we've developed that allow you to get the information, in a very timely manner. But KPIs, are driven from the business truism: what gets measured gets improved. It's not necessarily true. Measuring for the sake of measuring is a waste of time. All you're doing is collecting data, and if nobody's doing anything with it, you've just wasted time. That's the wasted motion. That's one of the 7 buckets of waste. So, and I had a client that, when we got started, I asked them if they had KPIs. Yeah, we've got them. So, they showed them to me. 25 KPIs. They look at them once a month. So they got everybody together that owned the KPI into a room, and we started to go through each one. Half of them aren't updated. Half of them are very time-consuming to update, and nobody was really doing anything to move the needle on those KPIs. My head started to hurt. It's a waste of time. So what we did was we narrowed the list down, and somebody owned it. And ownership with KPIs or measurable means that person or that team, better yet a team, has the ability to move the needle, to positively impact that measurable. If they're just looking at it and compiling data, that's a clerical job. So the purpose of KPIs is to improve the overall performance that ties to the financial results of the company. A lot of companies we go in, I ask to see the KPIs. KPIs are doing good. Company's not doing good. What does that tell you? KPIs aren't tied to profitability. Measuring something that's not important. I've been in companies where the KPIs are bad and the companies are doing real good. That may or may not be indicative of what's going to happen in the future, and are they measuring the right things? So when it comes to KPIs, it's not about quantity. How much stuff are we measuring? With IT the way it is today, you can measure everything, but it's about measuring what's important and having people that are focused on what those KPIs And are you moving that needle in the right direction? So if you implement continuous improvement, what's going to happen? Well, you're going to become more competitive. That means when you've got those aggressive competitors out there, be it a Sniper or Elmer Fudd or somebody in between, you can be more aggressive in going after the desirable business that you want to capture. You're going to increase your profitability because you're doing more with less, or you're doing the same, or you're doing more with the same, or you're doing the same with less. You know, I had a client that struggles to close their books every month, but they did something good. They outsourced a big chunk of their payroll services. So what did that do? That freed up time. Suddenly, that freeing of time allows them to get more efficient and do additional work. So, just little things like that can help move that needle, and it's about continuous improvement. You're also going to have employees who are involved. Most of the companies I go into, inevitably the CEO, or senior management starts complaining about their employees. They're not involved, they're not engaged, they're not working hard enough, which generally isn't true. They're working too hard. They're just not working smart. And everybody's not on the same page. So by getting your employees involved in the processes, what are you doing? How can you make those processes faster, better, quicker, without a fall off in quality? You're going to get them engaged. And it's also important that the employees know what the goal is. I had a client that was focused on labor efficiency, okay? Labor efficiency is they should be able to do it in 10 minutes. It's taken them 20 minutes. So the employees had no access to the standard. They didn't know how long it was supposed to take them to do it. It's like if I tell my daughter to go out and wash a car, hour and a half later, I go out there, she's just getting started on it. But if I tell my daughter I need the car in half an hour, go wash it, she's done in 15 minutes. So the employees need to know what the goal is on what you're trying to achieve or what the goal of their task is. And they need to be moving in that direction. Keys to success, pretty simple. You have to create a sense of urgency and have a vision. If your vision is, I want to be wealthier than Warren Buffett, nothing wrong with that. But what has to happen, and how can your employees help you achieve that? They need to do X, Y, and Z. And that vision needs to be communicated continuously. We've got a lot of clients that you ask the owners or the president, how often do you talk to your employees? Once a year. Great. Once a year, the employees are focused on the vision of the company. The other 364, they don't give a damn. If you meet with them monthly, they're going to start thinking about it quicker because the meeting's coming up. And if you meet, and the meetings don't have to be big, elaborate, sharing of all kinds of information. They just need to know what's the vision, how are we doing, how can I help us get there? A lot of the clients we go into are struggling. And the ownership is reluctant to share that information with the employees. But when they do, they feel relieved because your employees want you to be a success. They may like you, they may not like you, but they realize that if the company's doing well, there's security for them and there's a future for them. And they'll pitch in. They'll help you if you ask for help, and that's what continuous improvement is. We have to do this better. We have to do this faster. I don't know how. You do the job day in and day out. Tell me how to do it. And you'll be surprised at how mobilized people get. Every company we go into where I put a continuous improvement plan in place, we get, how much resistance we get from the employees? Zero. Because they're smart enough to know we're looking to make their jobs easier and make the companies more successful. Where we meet resistance is with middle managers because they get the impression that, well, geez, if you change something, that means I'm not doing my job. And that's not it at all. We go in to make people look good. Second key to success, knock down roadblocks to your employees' success. Back in the day, when I was a pup and had hair, I was a CFO and VP of operation. And we were an automotive parts supplier, so Ford came into our injection molding facility, and they wanted to, with a PIT team, process improvement team, they wanted to see us do some mold changeovers. Fine, no problem. We're always looking to cooperate with our customers. So 2 engineers are there, quality manager, myself, and we're watching a guy change a mold. Takes the mold out, hangs the mold, clamps it up, hooks up all the water, hooks up the hydraulic, closes the mold, goes to shoot it, everything's going great, wrong size nozzle in the machine, okay? So open it up, turn the machine off, pull the nozzle off, guy goes walking in the back, comes back 20 minutes later with another nozzle. Hooks the nozzle up to the machine. repeats the process, closes it up, gets the settings right, machine heats up, goes to shoot the plastic again into the mold, wrong size nozzle. So great. So, and this guy's sweating because he's got engineers looking at him. I'm out there. The quality manager is there from Ford is there. Pulls the nozzle out and he walks away, and I turn to the quality manager from Ford and I make a comment to him and I go, if he brings the wrong nozzle back again, I'm going to fire his ass. And the quality manager laughed at me and he goes, he can understand that mindset. He goes, but I got a question for you, Dave. Why don't you have a process in place where he always brings that nozzle, the right nozzle back every single time? The light bulb went off. That's what continuous improvement is. Setting your employees up for success. Do they have the process to allow them to reach that goal that you need them to reach? Third key, don't declare victory too soon. We go into a lot of companies, they like continuous improvement, they see how it's starting to improve things, so ownership, management just sits back and they start to relax. They drop the ball before the goal line. Every day you should be asking your managers or your employees, what have we done to improve? You can ask it monthly, you can ask it weekly, you can ask it daily. Because if you're asking that question continuously, it's going to start to mean something to them. Next time you're in a meeting, ask that question. And you'll see people start fiddling with papers, checking their BlackBerry, looking out the window, looking at the clock. Don't call on me. Next meeting, ask the same question again. Some light bulbs will start to go out. Gee, he really does want us to be serious about this. So, and then the third time you ask it, somebody will have an idea. This is what we did. So, being engaged in the process isn't going out there and doing the work. It's just telling people what's important to you and how you achieve it. Showed this slide earlier. Another way to look at it, we were talking about your competitors. Look at think of your company. Which one are you? When you're aiming for your competitors, when you're trying to pick business up, are you fumbling, stumbling, and bumbling around like Elmer Fudd? Or do you have crisp execution? You know what you're doing. You know how to produce your product timely, with high quality, or are you somewhere in the middle? What we do at SS&G Parkland is we go in and we move that needle from the left to the right. We teach your employees how to do it. So when we leave, you get sustainability, which is why we're successful at what we do. I can go into any company and I can fix it. But if I don't get the employees involved and get them energized to get sustainability where they buy into the process, then when I leave, they're going to go back and do it the same way they did it before. And that's why employees don't like change. They've got to drive the change, and that's what continuous improvement is about. Questions? It's not different at all. You've got a process. So what you want to do is look at what that process is. If you're a consulting business, or an accounting firm, they have a product. Their product is doing an audit. I don't know what your company does, but it's, you break that down into bite-sized pieces and who's doing what, when, and why. And then is this adding value or isn't this adding value? We start doing something, we stop, we got to go on to something else. So you come back and start up again. So it's all that herky-jerky motion that goes in just the processing of information or that whatever your product is, that affects waste and affects, the ability. Same thing happens at what I do. I went out, show me the data. Well, come back and, can't get it, look at it for a little bit. Come back tomorrow and we'll have it for you. Waste of time, So it's having everything lined up and ready to go, is more applicable to a service industry, versus manufacturing. But how you do it is exactly the same. You just break it down into bite-sized piece, and what do you do to move, whatever it is you've got from A, B, C, D, E, all the way through the process.
In the CPI.
Yeah, the question is, how do I get the employees to buy into the process? The ideas become theirs. I function a lot of times as a facilitator, an idea guy. I like to throw a lot of stuff up on the walls. Sometimes things stick, sometimes things they don't. So it's, even though I know what the answer is, if I tell the guy the answer, you don't care. But if I lead him to the answer, then it's my idea. Like moving the wall. And then the guy starts singing, well, geez, rather than pile the parts up, if he works with the guy next to him, if you line them up, we can do even faster. So it's, it's all about, how you get them, a big part of what I do is to pull the ideas out of the people so they become their ideas. And it's not about reinventing the wheel, continuous improvement. It's doing things quick and fast and, using ideas and creativity and not spending money. Any more questions? One question I usually get when I tell my Ford story, which is very true, by the way, is, did I fire the guy? Quote Jack Nicholson in A Few Good Men, damn right I did, because he made me look bad and it was the early 80s. But, I didn't. We put a process in together, just me and him, the guy together, and the employee was, it was all his ideas, because he knew exactly what we were trying to accomplish. Rather than me tell him what to do, he came up with his own ideas. He knew what the goal was. Any more questions? Thank you.